Welcome back to The Last Word with me, Anglea Catherwood. Now, let's focus on a topic that's causing temperatures to rise again in the boardroom: executive pay. WPP, the world's biggest advertising agency, is set to face protests at its AGM later. Shareholders are angry over CEO Martin Sorrell's pay package. Well, Martin Sorrell's firm isn't the only one under fire for board-level remuneration. Top executives at FTSE 100 companies saw their median earnings increase 32% to £3.5 million last year. The FTSE itself rose only 9% over the same period. Meanwhile, the average employee's salary increased just 2%. That's as inflation accelerates to more than double that. Now, that means that workers now face an even bigger squeeze in real wages, the biggest, in fact, since the 1920s. Well, compensation for FTSE 100 executives averaged 120 times more than for ordinary workers. And that's thanks to a 70% increase in payouts under long-term incentive plans and share option schemes. OK, well, let's get more from a man who has advised the top performers at some of the world's most successful financial institutions. Chris Roebuck is a former head of global talent at UBS. These days, he is a visiting professor at the Transformational Leadership at London's Cass Business School. And he joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because even those executives maybe who don't perform that well in the boardroom seem extremely good on the issue of making sure that they are well paid, and in fact their package has gone up significantly as compared to the average worker. Yeah,
there's a big question there, to be honest. If we look at, say, the FTSE 100 as an example, the pay has gone up, as you said, average 120 times at the moment. 10 years ago it was only about 65, 70. So it's gone up roughly, it's doubled in 10 years. And the question people are asking is, for these organisations, has profitability doubled? Has shareholder return doubled? Has their position in terms of market share doubled? And the answer is no. So they are saying, well, what exactly is the connect between organisational performance and how much these people get paid? And for some people, they're beginning to ask the question, it clearly isn't performance, so what is it?
And presumably part of it is just being allowed to get away with it, if you will. I mean, should shareholders and non-executive directors be in there making more of a fuss and saying, hold on, why has your salary gone up so much?
Certainly. The role of the remuneration committees and non-executive directors is critical. But the problem is, in certain organisations, when you have a very strong chief executive, there's almost a master-slave relationship between the remuneration committee and the chief executive. The chief executive walks in and says, so-and-so down the road in my sector is getting more than me, I'm not happy, I want more money. And some remuneration committees just turn around and say, how much?
And this is the problem, is it? That you've had one, if somebody in, I don't know, a boss of a retail outlet gets paid something, then they can point and say, well, look, I should be paid the same, and then it escalates in that way. And
that's exactly how it works. But the really weird thing is, if we go back sort of 20 years into the days when the trade unions were exerting bargaining power, the trade unions would be saying, hang on, we've discovered that workers at this factory down the road are earning more than us, therefore we want more, and the chief executives would be saying, but that's mad, you're not producing more. Now the boot's on the other foot, it doesn't seem to apply anymore.
No, if we look at the UK and then compare, say, to the rest of Europe, the UK does seem to be doing pretty well in terms of their CEOs.
Yeah, there's a number of cultural factors going on here in terms of how laissez-faire generally economies and societies are. If you look at the States, for example, S&P top 500, the ratio average to CEO is roughly high 200s. Over in Europe, it's much lower. It's 1 to 30 in general terms. And therefore, because the Americans tend to be more laissez-faire, more bonus-focused, more performance-focused, that's what's acceptable there. But what's acceptable there culturally isn't acceptable in Europe, and European shareholders expect the figure to be lower. And I think that's why what we're starting to see is, as the American effect of high levels of CEO pay starts to percolate into Europe, then the European shareholders are starting to say, we don't think this is right.
Right, so we think we might have a bit more of a squeeze on those pay packages.
Oh, definitely. The government are looking at it already.
OK, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, this is where the markets closed out the day in Asia.